maybe it's obvious, but there seems to be, you know, when we talk about things like crowdfunding and when we talk about the sort of the power of the audience and the fan base that can kind of propel things forward. And Jay, forgive me if I'm wrong, but one of the projects you guys are working on is trailers that are going to be used in Cineplex, and then people are going to vote on them, and those are the movies that are going to get produced. Do I have that correct?
Well, not quite. It's simple. So Cineku is, because a lot of people, so we're putting up $1 million in a guaranteed theatrical to either discover new talent or to surface existing talent that hasn't reached a critical mass. We are trying to get filmmakers, and we probably will do Teleku too at some point, but this pilot or beta for us, we've contained it to Canada so we can really measure the hell out of it, and that's even why the number for the budget and all that. So basically, I'm trying to get filmmakers to think like entrepreneurs, and I'm trying to move away to be able to bring more private equity back into film, is to move it away from what's called a high-risk waterfall model that has lots of upfront risk capital with no guarantee of performance to what the Palo Alto types would call an agile fail-fast model, where you get a minimum viable product to market as fast as you can, you see what the audience reaction is, and then you start iterating in terms of putting more resources behind it as you go along. So the trailer represents a minimum viable product. Then for the next 9 weeks, we help them package and market it using our platform and analytics to build that audience equity around it through a series of fun challenges. So it actually engages the audience very early. So you know what we are is we are kind of like, do you guys know what a tech accelerator is? Are you guys familiar with that? Yeah. Anyway, I'm the veteran of 2 tech accelerators. So I went through Boot Up Labs for Dime Rocker and just recently Grow Lab for my film accelerator, so that's kind of fun. So what it basically does is really smart VCs, serial entrepreneurs, and super angels kind of get together and they pick crazy guys with big ideas that looks like they can execute. And what normally would have taken me like 1.5 years to do, even longer on my own to build those networks and to kind of get that traction, they basically kick the crap out of me for 3 months and accelerate me and then give me, you know, in this case, $150K to really launch the business. So taking that approach to a linear media model and having it all focused on the audience. So, you know, absolutely the script's important. I just don't want to see it right up front. I actually want to see how you connect with the audience, how you use all these tools, how you build that. And then I want to measure the audience out there. So when we actually go bring it out to Cineplex, we actually know there's an audience there and we know how to convert them. And then we know how to put traditional money behind it because we can't compete with the States or anybody else at a P&A level. Like we can't go for dollar with them. So we need to get out of that practice. We need to moneyball what we're doing, essentially.
But Jay, something else you were talking about earlier, which I'm a firm believer in, which is to take something and make it transmedia, I hate the expression, but anyway, to take something and make it transmedia, you don't just want to bolt on social media and digital, et cetera. So how do you, it's even thinking about the business model right up front and how something can execute across multi-platform differently.
Here's the thing, though. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just thinking about what you said.
Sure.
So what you are doing is you are pushing the cost of creating a trailer to the filmmaker who has to, in order to do a good trailer, you have to have a script, you have to have your casting in place, you have to actually have a reasonable budget to do something that's going to be in any way impactful.
Or are we talking about
I completely disagree. And if you look at Paranormal Activity, they just shot a picture of the crowd getting scared. It's getting people to think more innovative. It's not about spending more money. And in fact, most kids have HD cameras and nonlinear editing. They were born with it, like we were born with pencil crayons. I'm sure I'm going to get iPhone trailers. There's already people saying they're using that. Most of the people are using like cameras, essentially. I don't believe that just spending more on that.
So these are films that will have no cast. These are going to be all amateur enthusiasts?
Well, we're going to see. We're going to be, so right now the intake's taking place, and we've had about 60 so far. And I've seen trailers that look like they were made, and people are making trailers anyway. They just don't have any facility to like get them out there and to aggregate an audience. It's not like this is something magical I've thought up. Let's make a faux trailer. Like look at Hobo with the Shotgun. He didn't even have a script when he started. Like that's a model that people should have built on and said what did they do right and what did they do wrong. And that was an inspiration for us when we saw that. We said, what if we could do that but have lots of filmmakers and lots of friends and lots of audience and really build that up and create, well, what it is a coup. in terms of how we look at that linear and
I'm
making it
with
more
Malcolm
aggressive.
Gladwell that, what is it, the 50,000 hours to really be good at something?
Sure. Well, that's like, but I'm a fan of like guys like, you know, one of my heroes is Roger Corman. I actually believe that we need those kind of guys around that give birth to the golden era of 70s film. Like, you know, I personally disagree that
there's something to be said
that's a barrier to entry.
Pardon me. There's something to be said for stage development, like you're promoting, though.
Yeah.
And I find in our own work that if there's one message I'd like to make here today that's familiar to us, we have a property that we're developing right now that's a very cross-platform property called Time Tremors, which is we've received some financing from OMDC, thank you for, and very, very gratefully. And the thing about it is it's a property though that we were growing in a staged way, where it was always conceived of as a cross-platform universe with a TV series and interactive elements. But actually, we've grown it in a very staged way. It started as a mobile app for kids. It's a treasure hunt. And then after that, there's a TV property that got attached to it, and it's been growing organically like that ever since. And as media producers who are coming from a world where we used to rely very much on a TV license, triggering some money for some interactive media, it's very interesting now to look at that landscape and have the opportunity to create mobile apps, where they have the opportunity to create different revenue models for monetization from mobile apps, from a general mobile app, from specific location-based apps that take place around the world. And also the other thing for us is the importance of working internationally. So that's a project where we're starting to look internationally at how do we finance things that aren't just television, but that are also interactive, that's part of a formal co-production with Australia and an informal co-production with the UK.
If you were listening to what Jay was saying.
As I was.
Your treasure project,
Yeah.
Time Tremors.
Yes.
I'm just going to expand it. You're focused on feature films, obviously, but if
Yeah.
it were, you would go and you would launch some piece of that,
Yeah.
possibly through a call it interactive coup.
Yes.
And you would get feedback, and the audience would respond and.
Well, it's more than that. It's not just about using the audience for feedback. It's actually making them a star. Like, there's, you know, for us, our top super fan's going to get to be on the jury panel for the final 5. So it's actually creating that's me moment. It's you know, and the audience doesn't choose in ours. They're a filter that we're measuring to help us find and surface that stuff. Like, ultimately, it's going to be guys like me and kind of some of the mentors and advisors like Brad Pellman or Aneve Fishman, Christine Habler, people like that who have actually seen that there's you know, that when we go eye to eye, that these people actually can make this. Like, there's guarantors, there's traditional film process involved. Like, we're not just willy-nilly picking like shitty scripts and people that can't make that. No,
what's really interesting, Patrick, too, about what you've just described, and I'm going to speak from the dark side of advertising, which is, I know, but you've just described a consumer journey. You've described an experience that a consumer can have, and I speak in terms of consumers or a viewer or whatever. But somebody can engage with your content, watch it, experience it on all different levels. That is now a very compelling story to take out to an advertiser to have them underwrite it. So there's an interesting thing versus just a, hey, can I, you know, can I run some spots in a broadcast show that will, frankly, not, you know, I come from a conventional broadcaster, not do an awful lot for any brand. That's sort of much more mass. That's legacy media. You're creating something very different that I believe is very monetizable.
It also echoes what was said in one of the earlier sessions, I think, by Raja Khanna, the importance of looking at it as creating partnership as well between brands.
Yeah.
Certainly we're discovering that, creating partnerships with the TV broadcasters because they believe in the brand. They're not exactly sure how to monetize it, but they actually do want a piece of the mobile revenue. That's an important part of selling it too. So
what's interesting is you're actually going to market with, believe it or not, it's a vision, it's a creative vision, but it's a content solution for someone versus a finished product show that literally, if you take it to market, becomes a finished solution looking for an advertiser's problem. So it's reversed, right?
Content solution. Can
you
I
like
use
that?
that? Can I use that?
That's my title.
There you go. That actually is going to do it for this segment of our panel, but we do have a little bit of time for questions from the audience. If anybody's got one, I see a hand up over here.
Just curious about, you were talking about distribution, Catherine. How is Netflix figuring into this now? Because we're seeing that there are a lot of TV shows in the US being made specifically for Netflix. And are you seeing that as an outlet for something you're doing?
Well, you know, I, of course, was lined up at Ted Sarandos's door, like all the other hungry producers, and was told that the focus of Netflix is, and they had amazing, talk about metrics, amazing chart that he showed me, that they are only interested in premium one-hour drama, serialized drama that can build loyalty and binge viewing, and only if the properties come to them fully packaged and with recognizable stars, celebrity, and all the rest of it. So it's very wonderful that they're picking up and financing Arrested Development, but that's a brand that exists. So for Canadian producers who might not have the track record in all cases to present that kind of content, I think your chances at, or our chances at Netflix original production slate are extremely de minimis. Having said that, there are other venues that are perhaps more viable. Hulu is now financing original content and much more in the lower budget genre. Sorry.
Well, I'm specifically asking about them as also a broadcaster for you, as opposed to just a financier. Like
you mean getting Netflix to buy Guidestones?
Yeah.
They're not interested in web content. They're interested in long-form content that will build audience binge viewing behavior. So again, it is an issue right now. You know, we're in a transition period. YouTube is moving off, trying to move away from short-form content. Consumers can still consume short-form content in, you know, vast quantities. But the reality is for advertisers, and everybody wants the audience to stay. And to stay and be engaged as long as they possibly can. So you have Hulu now saying they want half hours, no short form content. Amazon Studios is also financing original content, only wants long form. So we're kind of in the middle of something because Patrick, we are, you know, we've all got kind of into this web series thing, and we're kind of attached to short form web series. It's easier to finance. There's a different type of storytelling, and we've learned something around that. Interestingly, on SOS, the co-production we're doing, and on Anxiety Fail, which is another one, instead, I was advised by a distributor in the UK to whom I was pitching that I should not call these things web series anymore, that I should call them chapterized features. Because the marketplace was not interested in short-form web content. But they were very interested in both these cases. These are narratives. These are serialized narratives, so that we can, in fact, tell it as a single feature. So I'm not sure I answered your question. I rambled on.